Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. First thing I got for you right here is from Tom's Guide. Nearly 5 million hit in massive loan data breach. See if you're affected.
TitleMax, TitleBucks, and InstaLoan customers have been issued warning about a massive data breach after TMX Finance revealed that hackers accessed its systems and stole loads of their personal information. As reported by Bleeping Computer, TMX is a public financial service company based in Canada which operates in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and China, whose subsidiaries include TitleMax, TitleBucks, and InstaLoan. TitleMax is a lender with 1,100 stores across the U.S. TitleBucks is a car title loan service, and InstaLoan is a personal loan service that caters to those with bad credit. According to a new data breach notification letter sent out to affected customers, hackers gained access to its systems in December of last year, but TMX didn't detect the breach until February 13, 2023. Following an internal investigation conducted by the firm, it has revealed that the hackers responsible stole customers' sensitive personal information between February 3rd and 14th of this year. TMX has a large presence across many states in the U.S., and a total of 4,822,580 customers are impacted by this data breach. Customer data exposed. Although TMX believes that the security incident has now been contained, the company continues to monitor its systems for signs of suspicious activity. Unfortunately for affected customers, loads of their personal information was exposed as a result of the data breach, including their full names, date of birth, passport numbers, driver's license numbers, federal state identification card numbers, tax identification numbers, social security numbers, financial account information, phone numbers, physical address, and their email addresses. This is more than enough information to commit identity theft, and TitleMax, TitleBucks, and InstaLoan customers should be on high alert. Thankfully, TMX doesn't plan to leave them high and dry. What to do if you're affected by this data breach? If you received a data breach notification letter from TMX, you don't need to rush out and sign up for one of the best identity theft protection services just yet. Though it doesn't hurt. To help its customers deal with any repercussions they may experience as a result of the breach, the company plans to enroll them with identity theft protection services from Experian for free for 12 months. It may also be a good idea to request a security and credit freeze through Experian. Besides taking advantage of this offer, affected customers should also remain vigilant and carefully review both their credit reports and account statements, looking for any fraudulent activity. As of yet, the hackers behind this massive data breach have not claimed responsibility for the attack, but we may learn more soon as TMX has notified the FBI regarding the incident.
Okay, that's another breach. There's a lot of places that have been breached. Anyway, let's go to the next one here. This is from Newsweek. Russia shoots down key allies' plea for peace talks.
The Kremlin on Friday dismissed a proposal made by Russian ally Belarus to hold peace talks with Kiev to address the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko called for a truce in Ukraine and urged Russia to hold peace talks without preconditions, but Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov dismissed those calls when he told reporters, "Nothing is changing in the context of Ukraine," according to the Moscow Times, an independent Amsterdam-based online publication. While Western nations continue to provide Ukraine with military and humanitarian aid, Russian allies, including China and Belarus, haven't condemned the 13-month-old war but are calling for a resolution. However, Russia is showing no will to end the war. The special military operation is continuing, since this is the only way to achieve the goals that our country has today, Peskov said Friday. Lukashenko, a staunch supporter of Russian President Vladimir Putin, warned on Friday against an escalation of the war, the Moscow Times reported. "We must stop now, before an escalation begins. I'll take the risk of suggesting an end of hostilities, a declaration of a truce," Lukashenko said during a televised speech. "All territorial, reconstruction, security and other issues can and should be settled at the negotiation table, without preconditions." In a similar attempt for peace and conflict resolution, China called for peace talks, but its proposal was undermined by Ukrainian lawmakers after Chinese President Xi Jinping displayed a sense of unity with Putin in the face of Western pressure during his recent visit to Moscow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday renewed his promise to defeat Putin's troops, according to the Moscow Times. "The battle for the foundation of the free world is taking place on Ukrainian land. We will definitely win," Zelensky said during a visit to the city of Bucha in the Kiev region. Bucha was the site of alleged war crimes committed by Russian troops who were withdrawing from the city. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin this month over the alleged war crimes. Russia has denied the accusations. "Russian evil will fall right here in Ukraine and will not be able to rise again," Zelensky added.
And that's it for that one there. What else we got here? This one here from BBC. Fury as Russia becomes UN Security Council president.
Russia has taken the presidency of the UN Security Council despite Ukraine urging members to block the move. Each of the Council's 15 members takes up the presidency for a month, on a rotating pattern. Last time Russia assumed the presidency, in February 2022, was the month it invaded Ukraine. It means the Security Council is being led by a country whose president is subject to an international arrest warrant for alleged war crimes. The International Criminal Court, which is not a UN institution, issued the warrant last month. Despite Ukraine's complaints, the United States said it could not block Russia, a permanent council member, from assuming the presidency. The other permanent members of the council are the UK, US, France, and China. The role is mostly procedural, but Moscow's ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, told the Russian TASS news agency that he planned to oversee several debates, including one on arms control. He said he would discuss a new world order that, he said, was coming to replace the unipolar one. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba called Russia's presidency the worst joke ever for April Fool's Day and a stark reminder that something is wrong with the way international security architecture is functioning. Ukraine's presidential advisor, Mykola Podolyak, said the move was another rape of international law, an entity that wages an aggressive war, violates the norms of humanitarian and criminal law, destroys the UN Charter, neglects nuclear safety, can't head the world's key security body. President Volodymyr Zelensky called last year for the Security Council to reform or dissolve altogether, accusing it of failing to take enough action to prevent Russia's invasion. He has also called for Russia to be removed of its member status. What war crimes is Russia accused of? Will Vladimir Putin ever face a war crimes trial? But the U.S. has said its hands were tied as the UN Charter does not allow for the removal of a permanent member. Unfortunately, Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council and no feasible international legal pathway exists to change that reality, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told a news briefing this week. She added the U.S. expects Moscow to continue to use its seat on the Council to spread disinformation and justify its actions in Ukraine. The UN Security Council is an international body responsible for maintaining peace. 5 nations are permanently represented on the Security Council. They reflect the post-war power structure that held sway when the council was formed. Members of this group work alongside 10 non-permanent member countries.
Just think what's going to happen there. Putin is going to be in charge. He'd be the president of the UN Security Council. I wonder what's going to go next. Anyway, that'll be interesting to see. Let's see what we got here next. This is from U.S. News and World Report. Top general warns of concerning Chinese activities along border with India.
The Army's top officer for operations in the Indo-Pacific region warned Thursday of the potential for new Chinese offensives in contested areas of its border with India, among the most consequential flashpoints for violence between world powers and a place where the U.S. is dedicating more military resources. The activities of what's called the Western Theater Army in and along that area have been concerning for a number of months, General Charles Flynn, commander of U.S. Army Pacific, told reporters during a visit to a military base in Alaska this week. He was referencing the Chinese military command that has overseen systematic and occasionally violent incursions into territory in the high Himalayas that India also claims as its own. The most recent encounter in November in the Arunachal Pradesh region, in which India employed new U.S.-provided intelligence to anticipate and defeat the encroaching Chinese, as U.S. News first reported, came days after American forces completed a new training exercise with their Indian counterparts along another part of the border. That exchange represented the fruits of a new partnership between Washington and New Delhi that has enraged the Chinese Communist Party. That area has become more concerning because of their actions along the line of actual control, Flynn added, referencing the rough demarcation line along the inhospitable mountain region separating territory that China and India each claims as its own. Nations represented in that part of South Asia have voiced similar concerns as well. Analysts and officials say China is currently in a probing and testing phase, preparing itself for future conflict by determining how well the Indian military, with its foreign backers, can respond to provocations. It has vast implications for how the U.S. and its allies can effectively offset Beijing's ambitions for land grabs there and elsewhere. Flynn on Thursday declined to offer any details on what new measures China has undertaken to improve its chances for the next incursion as Beijing tests its expansionist aims, to include any new infrastructure it has installed along the border or intelligence gathering measures.
So, China wants to take Taiwan, and now they want to sneak over and take part of India, I guess, huh? Let me know what you think about this. There's more to read on here if you want to read more about it. Let me go to the next one here. This is from the Coup Down. Major U.S. company faces backlash after allegedly lying to its customers. They cannot believe.
In 2021, petrochemical company Dow Incorporated announced it would partner with the government of Singapore to collect used shoes and recycle the rubber soles, Reuters reports. But in 2022, journalists from the news agency tracked several pairs of donated shoes and discovered they weren't being recycled, they were instead being resold. What happened? Dow's program was simple. It would place donation bins all across Singapore to receive used shoes, then transport them to a recycling facility. The soles would be removed, ground up, and the rubber would be used to create durable surfaces for athletic facilities in Singapore, including tracks, playgrounds, and sports fields. However, according to Reuters, Dow has lied about its recycling efforts in the past. In 2021, the company was found to be burning plastic waste that it said was being recycled into clean fuel, and a project to recycle plastic waste from the Ganges River shut down because of failing equipment. So journalists from Reuters decided to test the new recycling program by placing hidden trackers in several pairs of shoes and donating them through Dow. What they found was that the sneakers were not being sent to recycling plants. Instead, the donations were picked up by second-hand clothing exporter, Yok Impex Pte Ltd, and sent to Indonesia, where they were resold. Reuters journalists were able to buy back several pairs, even though importing second-hand clothing to Indonesia has been illegal since 2015 due to sanitation concerns. When Reuters contacted Dow about the issue, Dow said Yok Impex would be removed from the project. However, there is no clear reason for a second-hand goods exporter to have been a partner on the project in the first place. Dow promised to pick up these shoes and grind them into materials and make them into playgrounds, and instead, they're being found all over another country. They literally cannot be believed, Jan Dell, founder of the non-profit The Last Beach Cleanup, told Reuters. Why does it matter? Dow's deceptive recycling programs are just one example of greenwashing, when companies try to appear more eco-friendly than they really are in order to get good press and drum up business. For buyers trying to live a green lifestyle, and for donators trying to be responsible with their used belongings, greenwashing can seriously undermine their efforts and take away their ability to make informed choices. What can you do? If you're looking for an actual eco-friendly recycling program for your used shoes, try Got Sneakers, which will pay you for every pair and also gives cleaned-up, refurbished shoes to people in need. It also sends some pairs to Sneaker Cycle, an online thrift store just for shoes that keeps them out of landfills. Join our free newsletter for cool news and actionable info that makes it easy to help yourself while helping the planet. Major U.S. company faces backlash after allegedly lying to its customers.
So they're lying, Dow's lying to the customers. It's just not right. Anyway, let's go to the next one here. This is from Fox News. DHS OIG finds millions of American rescue plan. Something's making a sound here. DHS OIG finds millions of American Rescue Plan funds misused by NGOs given to gotaway illegal immigrants. See what they say here.
The Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General found that some of the $110 million from the American Rescue Plan for migrants encountered at the southern border was misspent by nonprofits. In some cases, it was given to illegal immigrants who had evaded Border Patrol. The report outlines how the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, awarded $110 million in humanitarian relief funds appropriated under ARPA to provide services to families and individuals encountered by DHS in communities most impacted by the humanitarian crisis at the southwest border. As of the time of the audit, $80 million had been awarded to 25 organizations in border states, and the IG reviewed $12.9 million in spending. The office found that the money was not always used consistently with guidelines, that organizations did not provide required receipts and documentation, and that some did not provide supporting documentation for those to whom it gave services. It determined that 18 groups that received $66 million in funding did not always comply with funding and application guidance. Organizations were required to maintain documents related to costs, migrants served each day, expenses incurred and proof of payment for purchases. In one sample, the IG said 58% of the amount reviewed was missing documentation. Additionally, it determined some of those migrants did not have a DHS encounter record, meaning they were gotaway illegal immigrants who had evaded Border Patrol agents instead of turning themselves in after crossing illegally. The IG said that of the 824 names it tested as a sample, 197, or 24%, were ineligible to receive humanitarian services, and 154 did not have an encounter record.
And there's more to read if you want to read the rest of this in my description box. Okay, what we got here is from USA Today. With 2024 looming, how long can President Biden stay silent on Trump's indictment?
Washington, Joe Biden isn't usually one to hold back his feelings. But when reporters asked the president Friday about his predecessor's indictment, he had nothing to say. "I have no comment on that," Biden said. "No. I'm not going to talk about the Trump indictment," when asked again. "I have no comment on Trump," he said a final time. Convinced the best strategy is to stay out of Donald Trump's legal troubles, the White House is steering clear of Trump's indictment by a Manhattan grand jury over hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign. But that calculation will be tested when Biden formally announces his 2024 re-election bid, which he's widely expected to do in the coming weeks or months. While Trump holds the distinction as the first former president to face a criminal indictment, Biden could make different history, the first president squared off against a challenger under indictment. Continue reading. "It's going to be difficult," said Julian Zelizer, professor of history and public affairs at Princeton University. "I'm sure Trump is going to try to bait him into speaking. He's not going to make it easy to stay quiet. But I think Biden's predilection is to try to stay out of this as much as possible." More, no. "I'm not going to talk about the Trump indictment." Biden refuses to comment on hush money case. Why Biden is staying quiet? By not discussing Trump's legal matters, Biden is respecting the traditional White House approach not to weigh into pending investigations or influence law enforcement, particularly within a state or local jurisdiction. Trump, who is set to appear Tuesday in court in New York, faces multiple charges of falsifying business records, including at least one felony offense, the Associated Press reported, citing two people familiar with the matter. By not engaging, Biden also wants to avoid making comments that Republicans could use to reinforce their accusations of a politically biased justice system and Trump witch hunt. He doesn't want to give Republicans anything to work with, said Todd Belt, professor and political management program director at George Washington University. They are hypersensitive of anything that looks like the politicization of the judiciary. Republicans rally around Trump after indictment. Trump immediately made the indictment central to his 2024 candidacy, accusing Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg of political persecution and election interference and using the indictment in repeated fundraising emails to donors. Republicans across the board, even potential opponents in the Republican primary, rallied around Trump to decry the weaponization of the government against the former president. The unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States on a campaign finance issue is an outrage, former Vice President Mike Pence, who is weighing a presidential bid, said in an interview on CNN.
Read the rest of this. It'll be in my description box. There's a lot more to read. We know that everything is Democratic ran in the White House, and plus in New York. New York is a Democratic state, so everybody going to be against him. Try hard to crucify Trump. And let's go to the next one. This will be my last one here. This is from USA Today. Social Security benefits at risk. New reports say reserves to run out earlier than projected. Thank you, Biden, for doing that. That's what I have to say. We didn't have all this trouble until Biden became president. Let's hear what it says here.
Washington has less than a decade to shore up Medicare's finances and not much longer to fix a looming shortfall in Social Security, according to the annual Social Security and Medicare Trustees report released Friday. The update, which shows a slightly improved situation for Medicare and slightly worse one for Social Security since last year's report, comes as President Joe Biden and congressional Republicans are in a standoff over the nation's spending. The Social Security Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which pays retiree benefits, won't be able to pay full benefits after 2033. Medicare will run short of what it needs for inpatient hospital care after 2031, according to the report. Medicare and Social Security are large drivers of the federal budget because of an aging population and rising healthcare costs. But both programs are widely popular, and ways of fixing them, raising taxes or reducing benefits, are not. Biden has offered a plan that includes higher taxes on the wealthy to extend Medicare's hospital insurance fund for at least 25 years. Republicans have rejected raising taxes to shore up either program. But they have not offered a way to keep the programs flush enough to continue paying full benefits after the trust funds are depleted. Experts warn that the longer the problem is ignored, the harder it will be to address. The trustees continue to recommend that Congress address the projected trust fund shortfalls in a timely fashion to phase in necessary changes gradually, said Kololo Kijakazi, Acting Commissioner of Social Security. With informed discussion, creative thinking, and timely legislative action, Social Security can continue to protect future generations. What is Biden's plan for Social Security and Medicare? In the budget Biden released in March, he proposed raising taxes on people earning more than $400,000 a year. Biden would increase the top rate of the Medicare payroll tax and the net investment income tax to 5% for those high-income taxpayers. He would also expand the net investment income tax to apply to more types of income and divert revenues to help Medicare. That tax, created as part of the 2010 Affordable Care Act, currently raises general funds. The White House contends it was always meant to boost Medicare. But while making that change will help Medicare, it would reduce income for other government programs. Biden's budget did not address the future shortfall in Social Security funding. Instead, Biden only said that he's opposed to cutting benefits. What is the Republican plan for Social Security and Medicare? The GOP-led House Budget Committee said in a budget framework released in February they want to save and strengthen Social Security and Medicare, but didn't say how. A budget released by House conservatives last year proposed slowly increasing the eligibility age to reflect that life expectancy has increased since the program began. Benefits would also go up for lower-income workers and down for higher earners. The issue has divided Republicans eyeing their party's 2024 presidential nomination. Under no circumstances should Republicans vote to cut a single penny from Medicare or Social Security, former President Donald Trump said in January. Trump's former Vice President, Mike Pence, has said cuts should be on the table for the long term. We can introduce common sense reforms that will never touch anyone who is in retirement, or anyone who will retire in the next 25 years, Pence said earlier this month. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley wants to raise the retirement age for young workers and limit benefits for higher-income retirees. What do surveys show? 8 in 10 adults have favorable views of Social Security and Medicare, according to a survey released Thursday by the nonpartisan Kaiser Family Foundation, a health policy research organization. About 3/4 of adults say changes are needed to keep Medicare sustainable. Older adults are less willing to want changes. Independents are more likely to trust Democrats than Republicans to determine the futures of the programs. In a separate survey by Quinnipiac University also released Thursday, 78% would oppose raising the full retirement age for Social Security from 67 to 70. When asked if they would support that change if it meant benefits would last longer, a majority, 62%, still opposed it.
Okay, there's other links in there if you want to read them. And that's all I got for you today. I hope I gave you some information and hope you enjoy the news. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and at least come back once in a while. Until next time, thanks for watching.